This interview is being conducted for St John Scotland 75 Years of Making a Difference. My name is Dr Sue Morrison and the respondent is William Harvey, known as Bill. This is the 6th of November 2021 and the interview is taking place at Bill's home in Angus. Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed for the project, Bill.
Thank you.
For the record, would you please confirm your full name?
William Bruce Harvey.
And what is your age or just your year of birth?
Year of birth 1944, which makes me 77.
Thank you very much. Where were you brought up, Bill?
In Forfar, which is not far from here, and was brought up in a local housing scheme, and as I say, my first work was a paper round, and then I was an apprentice engineer, and my place of work was next door to the local fire station. So at age 17 I became a retained fireman, and sort of between work and fire contributed to the family household until I left to get married when I was 20. My mother and father had 7 of a family. Sadly, my father died when he was 54 from lung cancer. So my mother was left with 5 of us really. The 2 oldest ones were able to look at themselves because my brother was in the Navy and my sister got married fairly early. And the 5 youngest ones and my mother were in the house at Goosecroft in Forfar. And as I say, things went very well. I had a very happy childhood, and in the Boys Brigade, and great through them. And as I say, yes, as I say, I'm very, very proud of coming from a local authority scheme and managing to work into management. And I finished up as a manufacturing director 2 years before I left the company. So it was quite good. Mother was very proud. And one of the things I did do was I was in the children's panel when it first started, and I finished up being the chairman of the Tayside children's panel for a very short time, because at that time my marriage broke down and I didn't think I should be doing that sort of thing when kids and everything, when I had no problems with my own marriage. So I withdrew from that. As I say, I reached the position of chairman of Tayside children's panel, which was quite a big task. And I was with a company in Forfar called Don and Lowe, who were the biggest textile company in the area, and started there as a technician. And when I was there, I managed to work my way up there to be the factory production manager, and we moved the machinery to St James's Works, and I had the joy of meeting Margaret Thatcher and showing her around the factory, which was quite. Some people think it wasn't, but I thought it was the pinnacle of my career, sort of thing, was showing her around the factory. And she knew her stuff. She was very, very. She knew about where the product that we made was marketed and how it was used. Her being a chemist, she was well aware of how it was produced and everything. So, but I was with them for the best part of 23 years, and then we bought a company in Dundee called Tay Textiles, and I went there as production manager and finished up as manufacturing director. So they were overtaken by a French company or a Belgian company. It was called Van Leer was the name of the company, and that was a real change, because I was travelling to the plant in Chaumont in France every 4 weeks. So and you were going on the Sunday evening, your flights, you arrived there, and then you were there until the Thursday, and then you came back again. So you went for a week, and every 4 weeks. So it was quite a large amount of travelling, and they were taken over by someone else, and I finished up working in Livingston in 3 different places. First with Fife Bananas. I was the banana ripening manager, that was the name, and they brought the bananas come in green, nearly black, on pallets, and they're stored in layers, and then they put this gas cylinder in, and the gas ignites and ripens the bananas too, ready to go to the shops. And I did that for 6 months, and it just wasn't for me. And then I finished up working for a packaging company in Livingston again, and after I finished there, I was back to Dundee, and that was when I joined Asda. And no, yeah, that was when I joined Asda. I'd been with Tesco, prior to all that happening, sort of thing. It was 6.5 years with Tesco. That all happened in 2007, that was the period I was with them. And all this was happening, I was always wondering, what am I going to do when I'm going to retire? And as I say, Mary, having had her stint of breast cancer, we were at the doctors, and they said the flyer just saying drivers required to transport patients to and from hospital. And after having the flyer for 2 years, I picked up the telephone, dialed the number, and I made contact with someone who I admired 100%. As I say, Bill Spence, and he's no longer with us, he died just sort of 18 months ago, but Bill sort of took me through everything that he expected of drivers, and how he wanted St John patient transport to be the best, not just as good as, it had to be the best as, and you were then treating the patient and giving them that extra bit of comfort while they were on their way. Initially it was to the cancer unit. I was taking patients to the cancer unit in Dundee, and I was able to the first patient I had was an old lady. She was, I think, about 84, and she was fearful of going for this first piece of treatment that she had. And I says, well, my wife's been through it, and she immediately, hush, and of course she just sort of tell me all about it. And Chrissy, as she was known, it was like an old friend. Every time you turned up to take her to hospital, oh, you're here, thanks for that sort of thing, and you took her in. Now, the treatment to get on the last 10 minutes. So, I mean, she lived 10 minutes from the hospital, so you had 10 minutes in the car with her. You took her in, she got her treatment for 10 minutes, so you were only waiting for 10, so that was the shortest I ever had. And I had one which was outside Blairgowrie, and that was about 38 miles. And so you were taking them in, they still got the 10-minute treatment, and then 10 minutes, but it was 45 minutes to take them back again. So I think I didn't initially I didn't know what I was letting myself in for, because I thought, well, 1 or 2 trips taking patients. I finished up, and I started, I think I was working maybe 2 days a week, and maybe for 4 hours, taking the patients here and taking them back and returning the vehicle or whatever it was. But eventually, I was doing 8 hours a day for 4 days a week, sort of thing. And I think I accrued 83,000 miles during my time as a patient transport driver, and that was my vehicle sometimes, and it's also with the St John vehicles a little bit. I was quite proud of that, 83,750 miles, and it could be more, but that was the recorded one. But I felt I got much more out of being a St John driver maybe than I ever expected, because you met people, you struck up friendships, you sort of were able to help them in so many ways. And I remember, the woman in Montrose, Elsie, she lived on her own in a controlled housing scheme, and when you took her home in the evening, it wasn't a case of opening the door and let her out. You opened the door, you got the password to let yourself in, you pulled her blinds, you put her nightlight on, and you put her stuff on the end of the bed, and she was ready to go to bed, sort of thing. So it wasn't just a driver job, you were actually looking after them in some ways as a partial carer. And you had Esme Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and you picked her up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you put her 1 o'clock for a 2 o'clock appointment, and then you took her home in the evening, and you were in Montrose about 6:30, and it was another 40 minutes before I was home for my tea, sort of thing. But you just got into a routine habit, and Mrs. Mary didn't mind. She thought it was great. I had somebody who was doing something rather than being in her way. And as I say, St John were then introduced. I mean, when I started, I had no intention of being a St John member. I just was the driver. But Bill Spence introduced me to the St John family, and I started off as being enrolled as a member, and then I became an officer. I'm still an officer of St John now, sort of thing. So it was, but very, very interested in the whole St John movement. I mean, I couldn't believe for a minute that they've had an eye hospital in Jerusalem, and it's still there, bearing in mind all the bombing and everything that's going on, sort of thing. But and as I say, the other thing that amazed me was the mountain rescue. I just was totally amazed to know how much they put into it, and the financial costs that they actually were bearing for them. So I didn't know about it, so the whole of Scotland didn't know about it as far as I was concerned. I mean, I know they've made a plan for the next X many years, and one of the things is to make themselves more well known and prominent, but they've got to go for it. You know, it's not saying they're going to do it, they've got to do it. And I think only then, because most of the members, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this, are old. There are very few young people in the ranks of St John. They're all, and the drivers are either retired policemen or retired managers like myself. And I hope one day, as I say, we'll maybe have people in their 30s and 40s who, provided they know what St John is, they'll come and do a session of patient transport driving. But as I say, that's and I retired in 2018, and I've missed it. To start with, I did miss it, but now I've got so much else on my plate that I couldn't do it. You know, I'm glad that I took the decision to stop, because I think it would have been on top of me before I knew it, sort of thing.
Bill, can I just take you back to when you first phoned Bill Spence? What was that conversation, and what kind of training and how did you get started?
Well, Bill described what we were actually going to be doing. You know, we were transporting patients to and from Ninewells Hospital, and the training was really, I suppose, very little. I mean, because it was driving, and the part they were adding on to it was going to the patient, getting the patient into the car safely, making them comfortable, feel secure, and then get them into the hospital. And after they were there, I was outside my hands, and then you got them back out and you went to just the reserve procedure.
It was a bit more than just sitting in the car, though, taking people backwards and forwards.
Very much so, very much so. As I say, I met long-term relationships, if you get, for the length of time that we have with them, and people who I was driving around were possibly parents of people I'd worked with. You know, I was actually driving for people who I'd actually employed in the factory in Forfar, and you would speak about them, and oh, I know you, you're so and so's father, so and so's son, and we had some long chats. You know, backwards and forwards, and the conversation would be reignited the next day, and the story. So it wasn't it was definitely not just driving. As I said, there was far more to it, and only a few of them, I must say, were interested in St John, because they didn't know what John. They just thought it was an ambulance. You know, but they knew it was what we call the premier service, because I mean, compared to the other people who were transporting patients, our service was number one. So that's
and you had to be disclosure checked.
Yep.
Yeah. I think you said that you started off in your own car?
Yep, you used your own vehicle to start with, because St John at that time didn't have a vehicle for patient transport, and Bill Spence was the driving force to get the first one, which was a Ford Galaxy, and the five patients at a time you could have in that one, and we didn't, very seldom we had five, but in the early days, going to the cancer unit, it was normally just one or two. So my own car was ideal anyway, as I said, two in the back, or one in the back and one in the front. But you got your mileage allowance for that. You got mileage, but you didn't, as I said, the upkeep of the vehicle was up to yourselves. And it was quite difficult getting the insurance companies to agree you could use your car for a charity function like taking patients in. They eventually came around, you know, that we'll put that on your policy that you drive. So, but you had to fight with some of them. I changed my insurance company actually to get it. In fact, I went to Tesco, believe it or not. Tesco Insurance actually accepted me as a driver for St John charity before any of the rest of them did. So, but that's.
So just to clarify, you need insurance, but you can actually get that insurance. It is available at places.
Yes.
I'm just thinking if anybody would like to kind of join patient transport service, so that they know what they need to do in advance.
When I started, I think it's fair to say that Bill was kicking the thing off, and I think there's far more in the interview and everything now than when he was wanting to get the ball rolling, and knowing that I was keen that we maybe missed a few boxes sort of thing, but at the end of the day we got the quality of the person that they're looking for sort of thing. So
how many other drivers are there or were there in Angus?
When I started there was 3. There was Bill Spence, there was myself, and I forgot his name now, a chap in Broughty Ferry, and the road at that time was controlled by the ambulance service. So they gave St John what they wanted to give us, and they had their own people who did it in Dundee and got paid for it sort of thing. But it started off with 3, and then it was up to 7 I think, and then I think at the moment it's 16. Because there was a small group, we were maybe doing 3 days a week each, whereas now I think they have 2 days a week sort of thing. And if the problem was always moving the car, because I had the car and the next guy was on Tuesday, on Monday he's on Tuesday, you've got to get that car to him, he had to drive you back home, and it was handing over the car was a big not a problem, but it was an inconvenience in the early days. But now of course they've got 5 vehicles, so you can you have one maybe standby and 4 on the road in any one day. So it grew. As I say, it started off as a very small thing, but it's Bill with his drive, and actually, and I've always said I know he was Chief Constable at Tayside, but I wish I'd known him earlier than I did, because he's the sort of person that gives you, I mean, he mentored me in a lot of things in the latter days of his life sort of thing. He only lives along the road. He's just a place called Buckler's Head. You'd possibly come through it when you were coming here. Sort of. He's missed by individuals, but he's missed by St John, because he did a hell of a lot for the order. I mean, he got his knighthood 2 years before he died, sort of thing. But he's someone that's well missed.
You're also a patient responder? First responder?
Local authority first responder. 2 years after I joined as a driver, Bill had another project which he was bringing online, and he was looking for people in the area to be first responders, people who would turn out when the 999 call went in. The ambulance service would notify the first responder, and they would be closest to the patient, and you would be there performing your duties maybe half an hour before the ambulance arrives, maybe longer sort of thing. But in the time I was a first responder for this area, I was out 5 times, but I was on duty maybe 100 times, because like on a Saturday afternoons when I used to sign on, and I would sign on at say 12:30 on a Saturday, and I was available right through until 12 midnight. And that was a disappointment in some ways, but some of the ones I got were dramatic, and some of the ones I didn't. I mean, the worst one I had was a woman at a farm not far from here, and it's right up a hill, and she was in the cottage at the top of the hill, and it was what we call blind drift. Snow sort of being blown through the wind, and I got the call saying that it's a patient in the little car sort of thing, through the snow, right at the top of the hill, and she was lying down the steps. She was straddled over the steps, and her son was standing behind her saying, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Of course, the first thing I did was check that she was capable of being moved, and I made the decision, rightly or wrongly, to get her inside. So we got her into the hallway and checked her, see if she was breathing, and we weren't required to do CPR because she came around sort of having got her inside out of the cold. But that was quite frightening. Arriving there and seeing this poor woman, and he had the lights on, her son, but he just didn't know what to do. And as I say, we got her inside, and I was delighted to be speaking to someone at the local village hall. And about a week later, said the woman survived. She says she's back home. I said, that's great to know. But I've had, as I said, a couple in the village, and had that one, and I had one in Miniki, which is further up the hill. So, but training for that is first class. I mean, you're trained in CPR, you're trained in the use of the defibrillator, and Bill Spence organised the first defibrillator in our village hall, and I think it's just snowballed. I think St John have now put in, it must be close on 100 all over Angus. And there's a lot of private ones as well. You know, people have a bereavement and they want to put £1,000 towards a defibrillator in the area. So I think Carnoustie's got something like, in the space of the high street, I think they've got something like 5 along the high street sort of thing. But the important thing is that you want them to be available 24 hours a day. Some people had a defibrillator in their shop, and when the shop closed, the defibrillator was not available for use. So, but no, I enjoyed that. The training was good, and training was regular. It was every month. It was done in Forfar. It's still done in Forfar yet. But and then people would come along from the ambulance service and give a talk or a show sort of thing, and they'd have different scenarios that they would put to you, and you had to sort of think your way through them and what would happen. So, but no, it was, you were on edge on a Saturday, because once you signed on, if that phone rang, it was, and but no, it was, you had all your gear ready, and you took off again in your own car. I mean, some areas like Killymuir and that, they were, I think they have a van, but we all used our own car to do it here. But you've got to be available for the ambulance to know you're doing it. So it's signing on is important. Once you're on, you're available to them. And as I said, it was an experience and something I never thought I'd ever do. But as I say, the old days of mouth to mouth have long gone. It's CPR and done the proper way. You know, you see it done on Casualty and that on the telly. That bears no resemblance to shaving the chest of the and then making sure that the pad's gripping, and then once you press that button, you've got to be clear, because it gives a kick. But no, it was an experience I'll always be thankful for.
Can you remember what year that started?
2010. I think 2010. Yeah.
And it's been very successful.
Well, it's spread over the whole of St John now. Every area has first responders, and every area is putting in defibrillators and yep. And again, as I say, that's due to my late colleague Bill Spence that started the ball rolling. It's patient transport, and then first responder. He was the guy that gets the credit for setting it. And Edinburgh City and all these places have just copied, what they're doing, and it's throughout the whole country now. Yes. They've got a thing called the circuit, where if you have a defibrillator, you should sign on to the circuit, and the circuit then supplies all the ambulance units throughout the UK. And if there's a shout for an ambulance, there's a defibrillator close by, and if the first responders needed, they'll say that's where your defib is, and within minutes you've got someone who can apply a defibrillator if that's necessary. because it's the first 8 to 10 minutes that makes all the difference. If you can get there quickly and get the defibrillator on, it's a 25% chance of saving a life. It's
Can you just talk me through you becoming a member and what you did after that?
I was approached by Bill Spence. I think it was 3 years into the my being with them, if I was interested in becoming a member, and I said yes, and I got quite a few booklets, and I went online and I got a video online, and told you the history of it and how far back it actually goes, and I said, yeah, it's something I would like to be associated with. And I was Mary came along and I got sort of that initiation once where you get your first medal, and then I was at 1 or 2 meetings. I was on the local committee. I was on the committee for let's say the Angus in Dundee, and I think it's something I would not have been ever think about being associated with if it hadn't been through the patient transport and first responder, because I didn't know about it. I think that's the thing. But the thing that I've said already, it's something that is it was mainly old people, and I mean old. Some of them really old, but it'll still be the same because they. Pop their clogs, and we're all getting. I mean, I'm an old one now, sort of thing, at 77. But the lack of young people is a glaring omission. But no, that's it. I mean, as I say, joining, and as I say, as you put in hours supporting St John and the work you do, then that tallies up, and then you're approached about would you like to move up to the next level, and it has to go. It's in the London Gazette. That's where they put it through. It comes through in the London Gazette that you have been promoted to such and such, and it's I wish I'd been able to contribute more to it. As I say, I mean, I'm not even on the committee now as much as I would like to, because there's things happening all the time. But it's getting people to join committees now. Is that people, I'll do that, but I'm not going on the committee, sort of thing. That's common. That's not just St John. That happens in a lot of places. And you finish up something with the wrong people being left to roll the dice. But
what do you think could be done to bring more young people on board?
I think if they're promoted in school, I think you've got that's to start like what they're trying to do with, what do you call it, the Green Party. Start there. There will be some interested. The majority won't be. It's like I suppose when I joined the Boys Brigade. There's kids want to join the Boys Brigade. There's kids want to go to the Scouts. There's kids want to do different things, and it depends what you want to satisfy your needs, sort of thing. But I think it has to start young. I mean, there's no point of waiting until people are in their 40s and they've all got their. If you start young, they may commit a bit to you, St John, when they are young, and then they'll come back in their midlife and take it there. If I don't know what it's about, it's like people joining the Salvation Army, sort of thing. I mean, I lived next door to the Salvation Army in Coodieswine in Forfar, and from the time I was 5 until I was 15, you went along the things, whether it was what they called a pea supper, and that was speaking after the war. But you went for chips and peas in the Sally Hall, as we called it, sort of thing. You thought that was great, though. But you also had the singing and the religious side of it. But no, and to this day, I'll never walk past the Salvation Army tin. And when I was young, when you were in the pubs and they came around with the young soldier in the war cry, always bought them and read them, read them, sort of thing. But no. What you do when you're young, I think, comes back to you in midlife. in midlife, and I think they've to be fair, I think they've recognised that, and they put out this new plan for the future just at the beginning of last year, I think it was, and that's one of the things that they are insisting on, that we get close in with the young and try and encourage them to be involved.
You mentioned a couple of times that St John Scotland doesn't promote itself publicly and amongst the wider public as perhaps it might. How do you think that could be done and coordinated?
Well, I think we spoke about getting a focal person, whether it's Andy Murray or but some, maybe a sportsman or a musician or anything else. If you get a focal point for people to go into, then I think that and they reckon, he's with St John, that helps. But I think putting it in print and putting it on whether it's a doctor's surgery or someplace else for people to pick up, and people to pick it up and chuck it away, where if you can encourage people to get involved through a professional individual, then I think that's the way to go.
So a personality, public figure as an ambassador?
Yes, that's the word I was looking for, ambassador.
What are your most favourite memories of working with St John Scotland?
The many patients that I sort of transported to real dialysis unit at Arbroath, and the first ones that I had when I was taking them to 9 Wells to the cancer unit. They'll always stick in my mind, sort of thing. And my mother died when she was 94, and I remember what it was like taking her to hospital as an old person, and you have to treat them very carefully. Even putting their feet in the right place in the car, sort of thing. They'll do it their way, and as I say, it's treating the patient the way you would like to be treated yourself, and I like to think that I've managed to achieve that every time that I had them. That's it.
Are you aware of any other activities that are taking place across Angus?
Other than patient transport and the first responders, I'm not aware of any other through St John, and I think having been out of the firing line for 3 years now, I think I've lost contact with a lot of what was going on. I know they still do the training because I'm still on their list, and anything they do, I get it online and get a message from them. But I'm not aware of any new things that they're actually doing.
Are you familiar with any of the fundraising activities that have taken place here?
Other than the last one I did was standing outside Tesco with a can in my hand, sort of thing, and also at the Glams Extravaganza.
Could you tell me more about that, please?
Well, the Glams Extravaganza was held every year until COVID came along, and it's motor vehicles, it's vintage vehicles and motor vehicles, and it's in the grounds of Glams Castle, and we always had a stall, and people came along and we told them about CPR and defibrillators, and handed out flyers, but that was on a Saturday and a Sunday once a year. You're doing that sort of thing. So, but it was very well organised, and as I say, we all took a share of 4 hours each on the stall, and luckily we nearly always had sunshine.
In Scotland?
In Scotland.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would like to tell me about?
No, I think, as I say, it's not for everyone being a St John driver, because getting up at 5:30 in the morning when you've just retired initially took a bit of doing, but as I say, you're up at 5:30, you were taking the patient in, you were home for your breakfast maybe about 8:30, and you could be back out again at 12 o'clock to pick up the people that were leaving the dialysis unit at that time and taking them back home to Montrose. And then picking someone up in Montrose and bringing them into the late session. So, as I say, if you're committed to, the bowling, I was a bowler, and I had to restrict my bowling activities because I was doing first responder or doing patient transport. And as I say, I wasn't worried about that. I still went to the bowling when it suited me. But getting involved with a team was not possible because you couldn't commit to being in the team every week. Bill can't do it because he's got arthritis, and that's what happened. You know, even though we maybe played and got through to the next round or to the semi-finals, you would have to pull out, and someone would have to take your place because you couldn't guarantee to be available for the semi-finals the night it was taken. But yeah, you could change your driving duties, but no, that was, as I say, that was the only restriction, and I didn't mind doing that. As I say, it was. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I started off in 2008. 2008 doing about 1,400 miles a year, and at the finish, I've got it here. My eyes are big enough. It was there and it's gone. My golly, that's getting. 8,740 miles a year, and it's at the end, after 10 years, I'd accrued 83,625 miles, which is a hell of a lot of miles. But as I say, wouldn't change it. If somebody likes driving in all weathers, and it's now being provided with one of the best vehicles on the road to do it, then go for it. But it's not for a very young guy, because he's got his other things he wants to do with his life rather than but for someone who enjoys driving, enjoys helping people, and is able to be 100% committed to what he's doing, then yeah. And the same with first responder. I say the same with them, but they're slightly different. Some people will drive but will never go near a defibrillator. You know, so again, it's changing because there's more of them, but in the early days I had a couple of people who leave me the driving, laddie. I don't want to get involved with CPR and all this sort of thing. So
St John's Scotland spend an awful lot of money in Scotland. Could you tell me some of the expenditures that they have, apart from patient transport and the first responders?
Well, the biggest one, and the one they're least well known about, is Mountain Rescue. I mean, Mountain Rescue, I never knew a thing about them being involved with Mountain Rescue, and it's only in recent years that has become more, that information has become more available. But they are just about Mountain Rescue because the government don't provide any money for Mountain Rescue, and it's without St John, then they would be looking far and wide from other support. But no, that's the biggest one. And as I say, patient transport only started in 2010. Mountain Rescue was there a long way before that, so it was, yeah.
I think that's all my questions, Bill. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think that's. No, we'll leave it at that. As I say, it's if something pops out, I'll get to you. But I can't. I think I've covered it. As I say, okay, I'll be quiet.
Thanks very much, Bill. I really appreciate that.
Good,
Thank you.
that's it. I hope you managed to get something out of that.